if both parents are working and your kids' exposure and discipleship is coming from other people, then you probably need to downsize your life, especially those first 18 years. Seriously. I mean, is it really worth it? Is it worth it for you to have this lifestyle during this window of time? Let's say you live 85 years. These first 18 years of this kid's life, you can't compromise certain things to give them, to set them up for their 85 years or whatever. What a selfish pig you are.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And let's let that settle for just a moment.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously, you can't get a smaller house.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast. My name is Jared. I'm here with Chris. We are excited. We're also here with our good friend Anthony McDaniel. Anthony Lamar.
Bringing in the middle name, I like that.
That's right.
The soul part.
Called it the soul
part
so,
of me, baby.
Man, we're just so excited to have you. Anthony's been on the show before. Go back. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna cry. It's all the good things.
About a year ago.
Was it?
It feels
about
like
a year
that.
ago.
Man,
Yeah,
feels
it's been
like a
while.
blink.
I can't believe. It went by lickety
You were a
split.
mere 59-year-old back then.
I was just a lad.
Yeah.
Wet behind the ears.
That's right. But man, thank you so much for coming back.
It's always good to be here.
Today, we're going to be, just so people know what we're diving into,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about families. Anthony is a pastor and a father of 3 girls who are now grown up and love Jesus, are in ministry, and that's always intriguing to me as I have 4 young ones and wanting to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to invest in our kids. Proverbs says, Proverbs 22:6, right? Basically says, invest in your kids, teach them the ways that they should go, and it won't return in void. But we don't see that happen all the time. And so we're going to dive into that some today and also bringing up some ways of understanding how can God be good in the midst of tragedy. So those are really the 2 places that we're going to go. So please hang with us through all the ups and downs of today. But there's some deep stuff that I think we're going to get into today. And so it'd be a good idea. I just want us to pray for us as we're having the conversation and for you guys at home, because we really want the Holy Spirit to be driving this. I always pray, God, as words come out of my mouth, Holy Spirit, take it, mute it,
It's good.
and then reiterate it to whatever the person needs to hear. So
great.
We'll pray that today.
Love that.
And all of our listeners, you can thank me for this prayer being part of the episode, because he was trying to do the old, let me pray before we start. And it's like, no, let's start and then pray.
I like that.
I like it.
That's
So,
good.
Pull a little flipsarooski.
Yeah, a little flipsarooski.
That's right.
That's
That's
what I
good.
like to call it.
Hey, Father God, we just thank you so much for this opportunity to have this conversation. God, this is important stuff. Our families are really, really important. You designed our families, and you designed us as fathers who are sitting in this circle to be the spiritual lead of our families. And so I pray for everyone that is listening and for us having the conversation that, Holy Spirit, we would be led by you today. That would be you'd be taking our words and helping people to hear the things that they need to hear, just, God, you would be at work. We know that you are. Help for us to be attentive to it. Pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 So I already mentioned, Anthony, that you were a pastor for
35 years.
3 or 4 years. That's
35
right.
years.
3 to 5.
3 to 5, 35.
35 years. And
Jeez.
your kids grew. How old did you have kids when you started?
Yeah, I was in the ministry before I was married, and I was a minister of music right out of college, and I love teenagers, and a lot of times the pastor would say, hey, can you do the youth too? I was like, yeah, I'll do the youth.
Yep.
How much you gonna pay me more? I was, when you're young and you love the Lord and you just do it. So I oftentimes did music always, and then sometimes did youth. And then I got married, and so I continued in that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was been in the ministry since 20 years old.
Yeah.
I was born in a pastor's house, so was always in the ministry, really.
Like in his house, or your dad was a pastor?
My dad was a pastor.
Got it, yeah. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's like a doula kind of situation.
I was born in the house of the Lord.
That's right.
Yeah,
where,
right.
where am I gonna get? I don't know where we're gonna.
Samuel kind of thing.
Your mom's like, I don't know where I'm gonna have this baby, but it better be a pastor's house.
What did that look like for you as a kid, as a boy growing up with your dad as a pastor? Did you have feelings of angst to like separate from that or rebel against it, or you were always kind of more interested in it?
Yeah, no. Neither my sister or myself rebelled, and I think that this is what I learned most that helped us to parent our kids, and what I was going to talk about. We'll talk about it now. The Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way that he should go when he's old enough not to depart from it. That my parents understood parenting the heart, not the behavior. There's a huge difference, because when you parent the behavior, you're just parenting the externals. And if you don't adjust what's going on inside, you're going to make them conform as long as you live in the house, or you reach 18, or as long as they don't have their own money. That's not going to last. Mm-hmm. My parents will look into my eyes, my body language, and are sensing, okay, if there's something not right there, we're addressing that. And we're not going to impose this law. Mm-hmm. In fact, the Bible talks about the law really creates rebellion. It sows rebellion. If you just impose the law, and that's really what was going on in Jesus' time, and I know I'm connecting a lot of thoughts at one time, but Jesus saw, for example, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes, and a lot of the religious leaders, externally, they were keeping the law,
of course,
putting a check in the box, but their hearts weren't right, man.
No, that's right.
And he called them out for it. He said, man, listen, you tithe your spice rack.
Yes, yeah.
But you neglect the more weightier matters of the law of justice and mercy. Come on, guys. You should not have neglected that without, focusing on the heavier things.
And those are the laws written on our hearts.
Right.
These are passed to us in our DNA, I think.
Exactly right.
This is inside of us already.
So to answer your original question, basically he's asking, did I rebel? I didn't rebel because my parents were parenting my heart, the motives, the thoughts.
Yeah.
And my mom was so much love. She would say things like, Anthony, I'm just real concerned about your attitude right now.
Mm-hmm. Concerned about your attitude, Mom.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real teenage response, for sure.
Yeah, and so my mom was...
But she got your full attention when she would talk to you that way.
Prayed with me every night. Yeah. My mom laid her hands on my head as I'm about ready to get in my car to go to my high school, and prayed something like this: I plead the blood of Jesus Christ over Anthony. May no harm or danger come to him, and may he give you glory in all that he does today. Something like that.
Yeah.
Every day. I heard it hundreds of times. So, and then a lot of times I would get up in the morning. I'm getting up early. I walk in the bathroom, and my mom is on her hands and knees with her face in the Bible, praying in the Spirit. After she's been, and I'm like, phew, that gets in your head.
Yeah, no, man. She wanted her children to really know God and to have him in here in all their decisions. Yeah. She know it would keep you out of trouble, probably.
And my dad was preaching on Sunday, and we lived it on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My dad would call us all together and pray.
Consistency and character.
Yeah, I mean, we do more what we see our parents do than what they say. Yeah. If there's incongruence, it's not parallel, it's not like railroad tracks, they're going to do what you do.
Yeah, every time.
If it's congruent, it's parallel, what you say is what you do, and what you do is what you say, then, man, that message is very loud.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that's the problem with...
Almost as loud as that truck outside.
Yes.
Sounds like it's going to drive through the darn wall. Holy cow.
That's right.
But that's the trouble with, like, lazy disciplining,
right?
Where you're like, don't do that, right? Stop it, you're gonna be in trouble. Oh, yeah. Stop it, and you're like, oh my gosh, just work. Get up and do something, please. Cause like they know that your discipline has no merit.
So my dad made fun of those people. My dad made fun of those people all the time from the pulpit.
Yeah,
he's a pastor, man.
He was
very straight-laced, strong. Large church, one of the largest churches in the Northeast, actually, at the time.
Where was it?
It was in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, wow.
We were awarded.
Right.
the fastest growing Sunday school in 1979 by the Church Growth Institute, of which Elmer Towns was the head of. If you may not know, Elmer Towns and Jerry Falwell started Liberty University.
Oh,
Elmer
okay.
Towns is a big deal. Church Growth Institute was a huge voice before the Rick Warrens, before the, what's the guy, Willow Creek? Oh, man. Anyhow.
Oh, I know who you mean.
You know what I'm talking about.
Denny Haynes.
No. All these big voices. He would, that institute. So anyhow, I heard from a pastor that was very straight-laced, and he would basically say, you parents are having a problem with your kids because when you threaten them, you don't follow through.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a problem. You
Yeah,
threat,
for sure.
don't follow through.
Yeah.
So I heard that all my life. My mother, listen to this. My mother told my sister and I about behaviors at church, maybe that we need to be adjusted. And I was 5.5 years younger. My sister got spanked almost every Sunday. Because
On stage.
No, not on stage.
in front of the congregation. That'll teach them.
It's all about the shame in our family.
That was a great deterrent.
Oh,
No,
man.
for real, man. My mom did 90% of the discipline, maybe 95. She was a school principal before she got married.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
So
Your
she's
mom was no joke.
Now she's an educator. She manages people
That's
well.
old school when she could smack people with rulers.
Yeah. Good-looking woman, talented, very outstanding singer. You know.
Jeez.
Anyhow, she's great. So when she told you something, it was happening.
Yes.
So during service, she'd say, "No, I told you not to do that today, and you have to learn these." And I'm telling you right now, she wouldn't be emotional. She wouldn't be upset. You go home, you got a spanking. My sister, man, bam. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking,
Is she older?
5.5 years older. So I learned from that, but
It's
there was
crazy
not
how many
threats.
parallels we have in our life. Continue.
Oh yeah, there was really no threats. It was follow through. My mom followed through, and she told me that. Anthony,
Well,
I don't want to spank you right now, but I told you I was, and you need to know that when I tell you something, I'm going to do it. And she said, our word is all we have,
Yep.
and you don't say something unless you mean it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't remember what I was going to say. It's not
Oh,
good.
Jared, gosh darn it. I thought it was going to be something real
no,
good.
you're so
here's the
confounded
thing.
of his
Here's the-
sauce.
Here's the thing, though, is that's parenting the behavior.
Yeah.
So I think both are important, right?
Yeah.
Because we're both physical beings and spiritual beings.
That's right.
And what we try to tell parents, like obviously our kids aren't grown up and out of the house yet, but I feel like we have good kids.
Oh yeah,
they
you do
listen
great
to
kids.
us. They do.
I'll vouch for that. Yeah, they're great kids.
And but we set the standard when they were little.
Good.
Like the boundaries.
That's good.
Like here's the boundary.
That's good.
And so now that they're 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, like we've established that there are hard set boundaries.
Right.
And so they know, hey, if I cross that boundary, there's consequences because of that. And we try to explain that to them too. Like, listen, we're not doing this because I'm your enemy. I'm doing this because I'm going to treat you nicer than the world's going to treat you.
It's good.
And so walking them through, I think that's really good.
And I was going to say
It's less about me being in control.
And we may have lost some people, or seriously, we may have had some people that discount what I'm saying because I talked about being spanked. Because some people have crossed it in their mind that spanking needs to be totally taken off the table.
That's a form of abuse.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I think people are interested in that.
Sure.
All right, so I think, first of all, if you're a Christian, the Bible is really your standard for living, right?
I mean,
so
it
the
should
Bible
be.
says, it should be, basically talks about foolishness is wrapped up in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. Now, this is Old Testament. So what do we do with that? Is that still valid or not?
That's the old mean God.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament.
Not the Jesus accepts everything, God.
That's right. That's right.
I like this. So what do we do with that? I think for sure, I was born in 1965. So definitely during the 70s, even a lot of the 80s, maybe early 80s, spanking was still a primary disciplinary form.
Yes.
We started to evolve out of that, especially secular society, and Christian society or culture was slow behind on that. But I think people began to realize we're probably overusing this. And I think that, okay, so let's just keep it purely biblical. When it says the rod of correction will drive it far from him, is that simply referring to physical discipline, or is it more than that? Because I think that's an important question. Because we have people that sit. This is really where they're at. Their grandparents, their parents, they're like, well, that's what we've always done, and that's one of the problems in society. We have a discipline. You're right. Keyword discipline, not necessarily spanking.
Sure.
So I think the key thing is we have to really say, okay, are we driving the foolishness of the world out of this kid? That's the end goal. The end goal is not to. You can spank a kid and him become more rebellious.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do it in love, you didn't listen, you're out of control yourself. How many times has a parent showed their kid how to act like a fool in the way they discipline? Sure. They were totally, we've all done it. You want to knock their head right out because of what they said. So when we don't show self-control, when we don't show temperance, we don't show discipline in the way we discipline them, that message is louder than the discipline.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So I think that actually using the rod can actually be extremely negative and be anti-biblical because we're not self-controlled.
Yeah.
And we're not demonstrating.
And you're doing it out of anger.
Out of anger.
As opposed to loving correction.
That's it. So back to discipline,
Because your pride was hurt, or...
Right. I personally feel like
respect was
that parents should be on the voice command system most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. I do think there are some times where physical discipline is appropriate. I do think it needs to be used like sugar, sparingly. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe is the best style. Yeah. You have, for example, you have a young man. I had 3 girls. But you have a young man that's really mom is having a hard time disciplining this kid. He probably needs to fail his father, pick him up and put him against the wall and get really close to his face and say, son, I love you, but this behavior is going to have to stop.
Yes.
You are disrespecting your mom. When I come home, I don't want the stress of this. I don't want your mom being disrespected. I love you, but we're not tolerating this anymore. Do you understand me? As he's against the wall.
With his feet dangling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's feeling the power of a man that can whip his tail all over the house.
But doesn't.
It doesn't. I think that's probably a good day for him.
I think so.
You know what I'm saying?
Jordan Peterson has said some good things about that. Is like a man. What truly makes a man dangerous is what he's capable of, but he controls himself.
Yeah.
And
powerful.
And that men are supposed to be dangerous. Mm-hmm. But
I love it.
But good.
Right.
Could I rip someone's arms off if I had to?
I believe
I probably could.
I believe that.
But would I? Absolutely not, because I know that that's not the right thing to do.
That's right. That's right.
And I think we need to be capable of so much, but then it's that love and that hopefully that truth and the word and all of these other things that are inside of us that we have to have boundaries here.
I will tell you this particular story, and I share this, man, I hesitate to share it, but our youngest daughter is the strongest, man. If you know the Enneagram scale, she's an 8. I'm an 8. She got mouthy with me. She was 14 years old, and man, it was. I realized this kid is dangerous because she's extremely powerful, very bright, very strong temperament, and she literally could intimidate everybody. Literally intimidate her mother and her 2 sisters to the point of tears.
Wow.
Yeah, she's not intimidating me. She mouthed off at me one time. I smacked her right across the face. 14 years old. I said, listen, I love you, but you will not talk to me or your mother like that ever again. Mm-hmm. We're not doing this. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I stopped. And it was a bad time. Her grandmother was in the house and started chastising me. I said, listen, this is not your household. I'm the head of this household, and you can leave if you're going to undermine me. It was a bad day. Mm-hmm. My wife started to light into me. She started listening to me. I said, this child is out of control. And if you undermine me and she keeps doing this path, it's on you. I said, now, I don't like smacking kids. I don't think it should be done, but something's got to give here. Now, I'm not saying you smack your kids at 14 years old. I'm telling you that you better find a way to get a hold of a kid who's going a bad direction. And I would tell you that spanking should be used very sparingly, very rarely. I don't know that I've ever smacked any of the kids ever. 3 kids in their whole childhood, but that day, that one time, I lit her up. Mm-hmm. And man, I'm telling you, to this day, she sees that look in my eye. She's like, oh, freak, is it going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. But she knows that I might let her up.
I mean, that's a long time ago, too. Because that 14-year-old is now how old?
I'm in her head. She's 1996, so She'll be 30 next year.
Yeah,
29.
but she never forgot that.
Nah,
but
and
it never had to get to that point
no,
again, did
never
it?
again. And we are extremely tight.
Yeah. She's probably a lot like her father.
Oh yeah, we are so tight.
So that's the thing about what I think some parents don't understand either is that kids are looking like there's safety in boundaries.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, we're just gonna let them do their thing, and we'll, and it's like, no, they're pushing the boundary. Like that's their job as kids. Their job is to find the boundary and to push it, because they're learning. That's how they're learning what's okay and what's not okay. So wherever you set the boundary, you got to understand that your kid is going to cross it.
That's right.
So you have to set a strong enough boundary that when they cross it, you know that they're still going to be safe.
That's exactly right.
And so, I just think that I see a lot of young parents that just let their kids run around and do whatever they want. And I'm like, man, they're like, well, they're out of control, and that's just because they're hyper.
My
and
apologies.
It's okay.
I'm like, every kid's out of control.
Exactly.
That's how kids are.
Yeah.
It's your job as the parent to go and sit them down and say, okay, there's a time for that, and now's the time. And have you seen what's the show? The old show is like The Nanny.
Yeah.
Where it's like this British lady would come in.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I remember
it's
that
a
show.
lot of work.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and she's like, because kids are like trying to crawl into their parents' bed or whatever, and they're like, no, they stay in their bed. And they're like, but it's the middle of the night. And she's like, no, you get up, you physically take them in, and you say you are staying in here, and then
good.
you go back to bed. And you do it enough times, eventually the kid gives up and stays.
No, it's really true, and this is a really important conversation because a lot of parents, if they're not clear on their worldview, they're going to gravitate possibly towards, hey, I want my kid to be happy. Mm-hmm. Is that what we want? Mm-hmm. Because if you approach parenting that way, you're going to be miserable. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's what's kind of led towards, for example, this really unbelievable trend we just came out of. It's still alive in a lot of ways, but allowing children to question their physical their gender.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but
because they can't drive a car and they can't get a job, but they can alter the physical bodies.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And so without going down that rabbit trail, I think you have to decide, the Bible says train up a child.
Yes.
That means direct a child, focus a child. That means your focus is not on them being happy. Your focus is on preparing them for life.
Yeah.
It's about readiness for life. Your focus isn't today's happiness, it's long-term readiness for them to be healthy and whole and strong. I wrote down a couple things. I listened to, be honest with you, when you were preparing me for this, podcast or talk to me about it, I was like, wow, okay, I have to go back and remember a lot of things.
Sure.
My kids are older now. But this one quote really resonated with me. It says, focus less on today's happiness of your children and more on tomorrow's readiness. Mm-hmm. Those boundaries help them understand you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
Later when they're married, when they're on a job, they figure if I throw a fit long enough, they're gonna cave.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you just cave, you're setting them up for a really bad marriage. You're setting them up to go through job after job after job. Mm-hmm. You're setting them up to feel entitled. You're
Have you seen adults like throw temper tantrums?
Lord. Is this a joke?
No, I've seen adults that your first thought is they weren't parented well.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh.
They had no rules. They had no boundaries. They weren't loved.
Right.
Because love is discipline. Love is not affirming everything. Love is not accepting everything. Love is saying, I see you going in a bad direction, and I have to put a stop to it because I love you. Yeah.
One of the most important things a kid can hear is no.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things.
And then a reason for it.
You can't say that to kids. You're going to hurt their little confidence.
Yeah. And another thing,
That's what they say. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right.
That's
So,
what they say.
I was going to
say
say, parenting doesn't stop at age 18 either.
Yeah.
That's one of the dumbest things I've heard.
The brain doesn't stop developing to what age do you
25.
remember?
Mid-20s.
Yeah.
Mid-20s.
That's right.
Yeah, the
So you're
capability
telling
for
me,
higher
wait a
reasoning.
minute. You're telling me my brain is still developing by 25, but when I'm 4, I can decide to chop my pee-pee off?
I really didn't expect that.
I like that. I think I'm a bad influence, but I like it.
You are a bad influence.
I'm just saying.
He He knows I'm going to say it,
How
so he says it before
how come
me.
the
I
car
like that.
rental companies get it, but the rest of
The
society is struggling?
car rental companies do get it. Isn't it funny?
What is it?
25 years old is
You can't rent a car until you're
before
25.
Ah, that's perfect.
They know it.
That's
They
perfect.
know you're going to be an idiot at 18
Absolutely.
when you rent, but you're
Absolutely.
you're old enough to go fight for your country, which God bless them. I
Right.
think there has to be a certain your risk benefit
I don't think you're
ratios
completely-
are out of whack a little
You're not
at 18.
completely,
So.
completely dumb
No,
at 18.
you're
You're just not finished
You're
yet.
just not done yet.
Well,
I mean, if you ask our wives, they probably think our brains are still developing.
is it the cerebral cortex? Let's be real specific. Basically, our capability for higher reasoning
Yes.
is really not developed till mid-20s.
I agree 100%.
That's what the
and
doctors-
that's exactly my life.
Right. Yeah.
I made all my dumb decisions.
Right.
Say all of them. I made many from 20 to 25.
Right.
When I had the financial capability, the independence, all
Right.
those things. But you know what? In a lot of ways, it was very beneficial because it got it out of my system,
Yeah.
and I saw it for what it was when I did turn 25. And sure enough, by 26, I met my wife, and all of that stuff was history.
I love it.
I mean, it fits me perfectly.
Yeah.
It's exactly my story.
Yeah. And so going back to my original statement,
Yeah.
parenting doesn't stop at 18.
No.
It's very unwise for Christians to receive instruction from a secular culture on how they should live their life. Let's review for a second. The Bible, what's one of the top 10? Honor your father and mother that your days may be long upon the earth. When does that stop? No, seriously.
27.
He's got the exact.
2 years of experience of having your head screwed on. You're a 2-year-old, but yeah, forget
Yeah,
the parents at that
27.
point. That's good. I like that.
That's good. It's good. It's quick.
So I think it's really important that we not adopt a secular mindset. In fact, it's very negative for you to say, well, when you're 18, blah, 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 you're on your own. Okay, well, let's be even more biblical with that. Jesus was recognized, and a lot of the Jewish children recognize you're reaching adulthood. You're reaching a key point in your life at 12 of maturity. So, whoa, 12? Oh, yeah. You want to play the numbers game? Let's play the Bible numbers game. At 12, we're recognizing you should take on more responsibility. We should expect more from you at 12. So that when you get to be mid-20s, you've got some practice of being more mature and responsible and carrying on, more duties and contributing. And so, I think that's a really negative thing about this 18 thing. It's like you're washing your hands of your kids. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
If you're thinking you've got from 18 to some mid-20s, at least 7 years of craziness, and they're probably the most dangerous in those years.
Yes.
And you're gonna wash your hands of them. You're gonna basically stay on your own. What you're doing is throwing your kid off a cliff. You notice my voice is raised because as a pastor, I've had to be involved in the cleanup of that stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
That.
The parents that stay involved, we're not talking about, we understand that a parent becomes more of a coach at some point.
Right.
I get it, but doggone coach. Pull your son-in-law, pull your daughter-in-law and say, listen, I know you're out of the house. I love you, but I'm concerned about this right here. And I want you to think about this. Don't tell them what to do. Be a voice in their head. And if you're smart, you realize don't be domineering, don't be controlling, don't be threatening. Plant seeds of truth. Say what needs to be said. Hey, why don't you pray about that? Why don't you think about that?
Yeah.
My dad was a master at that. Here's what my dad would do. This is one of the best stories of my childhood. I'm like 18, 19. I'm going to Towson State University. First 2 years of college, I'm driving because my parents recommended that. And that was a great wisdom there. That was a great example. My dad saying, you go off to college at 18. Both of my parents were college professors for a time. They saw it. He said, Anthony, why don't you go? He said, why don't you, in other words, it's your decision. You're a big boy. He's acknowledging that, not trying to control me. He's just sharing an idea. Anthony, why don't you consider going to college the first couple years closer because it's a lot cheaper. It's going to save you a lot of money, and it gets you used to college. He said a lot of these kids go off to college, they're not prepared for college, they do crazy stuff, they flunk out, and they don't reach their dreams. That's right. So he's just sharing, he gives me real life examples, real stories. He used to give me names. I won't give you names. He said, so-and-so, they did this, blah, 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 and I knew so-and-so, and they did blah, 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 and they did some stupid stuff. He would usually give me a real life example. So he was coaching me with real life examples, but in essence, do what you want. Anthony, if you want to drive off the cliff,
It's your call.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there thinking, that's the difference between
But
parenting.
you also respected him.
Totally did.
Because of the way that he raised you and the way that they so it's like when he's speaking, you wanted to hear what he had to say.
Exactly right. And masterful in not being controlling. Some
Yes.
parents say the right thing, but man, they're trying to be too controlling.
Yeah.
And they sow seeds of rebellion. That's parenting the externals and parenting by the law, not parenting by the heart. You could say parenting by the spirit versus parenting by the law to be really biblical. But to me, me and my wife used to have some discussions a lot about this.
I love the air quotes.
Yeah. And I used to say to her, who rebelled and who didn't? You rebelled. And you told me why you rebelled. I could tell you why you rebelled. You were iron-fisted, good parents. They were wonderful, but they were laying down the law on you. My parents didn't lay down the law. I didn't finish my story. I'm in college. I come home. I'm sneaking in the far side of the house. I shut the door. I turn the light on. My dad is sitting in the dark right there.
Just like they do in the movies.
Like the movies.
Yeah.
He had this multicolored, look like Joseph coat of money. He goes, his house coat, his slippers on, the legs crossed just like it's the middle of the day. And he goes, what do people do at 12:30 at night?
Yeah.
And me, the guy that could talk, I'm like, oh, shoot. Down to like 1.2 seconds, I got to come up with some stuff.
Yeah.
He's sitting there in the dark. I'm busted. I've been messing around with my girlfriend late, and he probably knows that. And he's concerned about, what might happen, which usually is a child coming along or, you know what I mean? And if I don't get my sons, he probably was watching and when he saw the lights, but I was pretty good. I turned the lights off when I came down the driveway.
Wow, you thought you had it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
thought
I was
you nailed
good.
it.
Far side, he'll never know. No, busted, man.
Yeah. He was just waiting.
Yeah, had a nice conversation
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. What did people do at
Yeah.
that time of night?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's not all about telling them what to do. It's asking the right questions to get them to think for themselves. And so we do that with our kids now.
Excellent.
Rather than, again, I go back to setting up early boundaries, because if you set up early boundaries, they know the expectation. So then when they're a little bit older, you're in a space where you can kind of back off a little bit because they already know, like, okay, I know this is right and I know this is wrong. And we're trying to teach them to just okay, so what do you think God thinks about this? If we love God, and why? Why would God not want us to do this? Helping them to come to those conclusions. And we want our kids to be critical thinkers.
That's good.
And we want our kids to, because like you said, they're like Ezra. Ezra's 13, and he's already talking about driving a car. And I'm thinking, technically in 3 years you can drive a car. And I said, those are the state's rules, but you have to show us that you're responsible enough to do that. You know what I mean?
That's great. I love that.
And he's like, okay, well, what do I need to do to be responsible?
That's
you
great.
know? And
It's a
so
great conversation.
we're having these conversations.
I love that.
And so, but I want him and all of our kids to be thinking through those things as opposed to me saying, this is what you do and this is what you don't do.
That's good.
Ultimately, you have a 3-year-old that wants to run into the street. You're going to grab them and say, no,
Right.
you can't do that. You're
Right.
you're gonna kill yourself.
Right.
So there are those moments.
Yeah.
And so we have to be discerning. And I like to, when you talk about parenting to the heart, knowing that all of your kids are different.
Yeah.
And so how we parent Ezra is not how we parent Eris.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Eris is like, sweet and kind of going along, and she'll get a little sassy sometimes. Ezra's like controlling. He wants things his way. He's dominant. And he's social. So like the worst thing that we can make him do is go sit by himself in his room. Where he's like, if he had a shirt, it would say FOMO. Because he is always like, he wants to stay up late. He doesn't want to miss out on anything. And so he got in trouble like maybe a month ago at like 8:30 and had to like go up to bed. Like, I don't even know if it might have been 7:30. It was really early where he had to go up and stay the rest of the night in his room. It was terrible for him. Isolation.
Yeah, that didn't work well for me either.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a social being.
Yeah. So parenting of the heart is a key thing for takeaway for people. And you listen, I certainly don't want to give off the impression that I was raised perfect or my kids were raised perfect. Because here's what, let me just tell the dark side. I'm a type A personality, very driven. Oh man, I yelled too much. I came home to a dirty house a lot. I'm frustrated. My wife she didn't have to work. You know, she worked part-time with the church. Stuff's all over the place. I'm angry most days coming home, and I'm ripping into people. I'm upset because I'm gonna get this house. Because doggone it, I'm gonna raise my kids right. I'm motivated, and I realize, okay, you're right in that you need to provide direction, but man, the way you're doing it is not good.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't be coming home and just be angry every day.
Yeah.
I was angry a lot, and I think that comes with testosterone. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying. You know, usually if you have high testosterone, you're kind of an alpha male, you're going to deal with anger and you're going to deal with sexual issues. Those two are coupled together, just straight up. That's just my experience personally and observing other men and having a lot of private conversations with men my entire life. So we don't, toxic masculinity has been a term that's been used to take away the strengths of men in this society. It's very bad. We need masculinity bad.
100%.
But we need godly men. Anthony needed to surrender to Christ more and come home meek, which is power under control. Surrendered masculinity. There you go. And say privately to my wife, hey, when I come home, I really get frustrated. Like, I'm thinking, what the freak have you been doing all day? And why does this house look like a hurricane came through here? And why are these kids, we homeschooled for a while. What the heck did they do?
Right.
I'm just I should have had a private conversation. I didn't do that a lot. I wasn't that self-controlled enough. I had to grow on that. And we learned, we stopped homeschooling for a while because I was saying, look, if you're not going to have scope and sequence, and you're not going to have discipline around here, we're not doing this. I want to do this because I don't want the bad influences of public school and some of that curriculum stuff and the influences of some of these kids. These kids, so we put them in, thank God, Lord helped us to get into private school. We were thankful for that. And that's a whole nother conversation. Let me just say this. The mission field is the school, but if your missionary is not ready, you better put him back in training. So here's what we did. We went private school, public school, homeschool. We did, and you know what? Our kids went to Palm Harbor University, the high school, great school, great soccer program. My oldest daughter played soccer. We yanked them because you know what? They were losing the battle of influence. They were being more influenced in ungodly ways than godly ways. Those decisions were some of the most difficult, most stressful that we've ever faced because this is your kid. We can't mess this up. And I remember, man, and I'm telling you, man, we pulled them out. I think both of them finished through the virtual school, didn't even walk with their class, but we won that influence. And now they're godly girls who have their heads screwed on straight. They're critical thinkers. They question everything, but they're socially, still pretty adjusted. Why am I laughing? It's just you should laugh, right? Because they're weirdos.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't think that as an adult, I'm not going around going, that guy was homeschooled. I mean, I don't. Maybe you do.
No, I have definitely done that.
I've come across a few, though.
And were you? How old were they? Like in their 30s and 40s?
No, I saw a couple of those at the that event that we went to last year, the Rise Up Con.
Okay.
There was a couple that was like, yep, homeschool.
Yeah, but
homeschool. I could just look at them. Oh, as adults?
That's what I'm saying. As adults.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm saying yes, as kids, you can kind of pick them out.
There's like a socialization thing that I think can happen.
For sure.
Where you're definitely losing out.
If you put a bunch of 40-year-olds together, we're not going up. I can tell you were homeschooled, weren't you?
Let me tell you a positive side of that. I would say yes. I won't use a name because they're in this area.
Who is it? Come on.
No,
Who is it?
What's
on.
up?
I'm just kidding.
The message?
No, I said, who is it?
Oh, yeah.
No,
I said to myself, they did something recently. They were homeschooled a lot of their entire education. And I thought, oh, that's right. They were homeschooled. You know why? They were defiantly independent in their thinking, which is very good in that regard. They were not, the socialization is good and bad. Here's the good part. Right. You learn to play well with others, to conform. The bad thing is you're taught to conform.
Yeah.
Stand in line, everybody's together.
Right.
We go with the flow. So
Right.
you got to teach your kids to be defiantly independent. And
Here's
if they,
the bad thing, though.
Yeah.
There's like social cues that sometimes they have a hard time picking up on, like picking your nose. Like if you're picking your nose in middle school, your friends are gonna let you have it.
That's true.
But when you're at home, it's just
Your
you.
sibling doesn't care.
Yeah,
It's
they're like,
there's so and so
they're like,
just pick it. That's
So
what he
great,
they're
does.
doing it. They're like, I didn't know we could do that. That was awesome. You know.
But how big? But what would you rather have? Someone that
sure.
can learn that when they get a girlfriend. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Or someone who's so not of. They're more of this world than they are of. Of
Correct.
godliness.
Yeah.
So
And the
this
thing
is a
about
socialization issue I've
Sure.
heard for many years,
Yeah.
and it's overplayed.
Yeah.
It's
And
overplayed.
innocence is something that once it's gone, it's gone.
It's
you can't
gone.
get it back.
Right.
So like the longer we can keep our kids innocent,
Right.
And prepare them to be critical thinkers so
Right,
that
right.
when they come across those things, they're ready to face them because
right.
they're prepared correctly, as opposed to being 10
Oh, yeah.
and being shown porn on a phone and going, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and,
I was just gonna
and
say.
the last 10, 15 years has been just, it's such a different approach to parenting because all these issues that we're dealing with that
Yeah.
our parents didn't have to deal with.
Right.
They
Oh, yeah.
didn't. Our parents had to deal with, there's a magazine you shouldn't be looking at the store
and
at
don't
the
do
deli
drugs.
or at the store and don't and say no to drugs like that. Those are the two big ones. You know what I mean? And now
And
it's
don't come
like
home at
you
12:30.
have the whole world,
world.
in your hand here,
Right.
and these kids are getting these phones at 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have guidelines and structure to that. Otherwise, it can be. Listen, my wife, not that my son, the phone is definitely a source of power and of, that's the one thing that if he knows he's going to lose it, he will hopefully make a
gonna
better
sting.
decision.
Yeah.
It's going to sting.
Yeah.
But we have a pretty open system in our house. The phone really needs to stay downstairs.
That's good.
My wife is always in it, looking through his text, looking at all interactions and
That's
stuff,
great.
and we talk about those
That's
things.
great.
So he knows. Like
Good.
mom and dad are very aware of what you're using your phone for,
good.
and we're going to be talking about it and looking at it regularly. So
It's so
Our
good.
kids have one phone that they share. So it's not like it's not his phone or her phone.
well,
or
plus
whatever.
you have you still have a couple kids that don't really need phone access.
Well,
quite
none of
yet
them need
anyway.
it.
None of them need it. I guess I mean in terms of responsibility and
Sure.
those things. You have a teenager,
Yes.
and then you have younger ones.
Right.
So
but the flip of that is we want to train them
Sure.
to use the technology right. Otherwise, it's the same thing. They turn 18, they go out, it's their first experience on a phone, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they don't know how to manage that.
Right.
And so being able to, it's tricky. And every kid's going to be a little bit different, and every family's a little bit different. But I think that what we like to tell parents is, no matter what it is, like bring it to God in prayer,
Yeah.
and say, God, what's best for this child in order to train them so that they can use this technology in a healthy way and a God-honoring way? Because we know that under my own thoughts, I'm probably going to mess it up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you opened up a little bit about porn access. I mean, once that euphoric experience happens, you want to revisit it. And then what happens, then you establish neuron pathways in your brain that scream for it. And then you really start to manage, I hate to say addiction, but it's really true.
Yeah.
And then, for example, young man that, a neighbor that grew up with my kids, and I'm saying this because this might be a good motivational tool, no joke. He looked at porn so much that he developed ED, like we're talking about a young man.
Oh, I'm
Young
sure.
man.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
Yeah, so think about that. So seriously, you talk about parenting by the heart and like kind of like my father, this is a great tool. You sit down with your kid, you're supposed to say, listen, man, I'm trying to be appropriate. Your thing isn't gonna work.
You can say pee-pee.
Yeah, okay. Your thing isn't gonna work as well if you stay with this. That's gonna get his attention
Yeah.
because he wants it to work.
Yeah.
And you're not lying to him.
There's a really good organization called Fight the New Drug.
Oh.
Have you heard of them?
No.
It's completely science-based.
Love
and
it.
It's talking all about the neurons and,
Ooh, I love
and
that.
all of that stuff. So
Love that.
actually,
What the heck are you doing? Oh, I was like,
It's like he's going to let one go right here on the
what's that?
see this right here?
The green thing?
The green thing.
What is that?
ice.
That's Fight the New Drugs logo.
That's strong.
Yeah, so
That's strong.
it's something
Wow.
where it's not.
When did you get that? Recent? Oh, that's old.
He's
You've
got
had
one
that
his
for a
left
while.
butt
I've had
cheek
that
too,
for a
but he's
really
not going to
long
show us that
time.
one.
Yeah, no, because I found them.
That's right. I thought he was going for a pant. I was going. Just going to show you something on his rear end.
It's on my lower back.
That's in a movie. The guy shows the
No, so
Roy
it's,
Orbison or something. His butt
Oh
cheek.
yeah,
That's
where
from
the
a
heck
movie.
is that from? Yeah, you're right. It's like the Hangover or something.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
in-
know.
But the beautiful thing about them is it's not like, hey, God says not to do this. It's, hey, this is what the science says, and this is why it's harmful to you. And they're like, it is the new drug. It is the new thing that people get hooked onto.
True.
And so they have programs, they have information all about how to get people off of it. We also have had a guy on here, Frank Rich, who has is right now it's called Rebuilt Recovery.
Rebuilt Recovery.
He's rebranding it to the Rebuilt Man.
Oh, he is?
Because he's starting to bring in
Oh, I
like
didn't know that.
fitness back into it as well.
I just talked to him. I
But
didn't know this.
That's awesome.
He
that's
he has a curriculum and coaching that he does to help men.
What's it called again?
It's called Rebuilt Recovery.
I think this is great.
But
These are
he's-
some good resources. for
He
people.
is he's rebranding
He's been on our show like
Yeah.
4 times.
He's
That's great.
rebranding to the Rebuilt Man. So
That's
before
good.
it was all just the curriculum based, and now he's bringing in like, hey, as we get fit and we're taking care of our physical bodies, it actually helps to be a deterrent of wanting to
Let me throw out
gravitate.
another name that's kind of like on the rehabilitation side is there's still hope.org. A guy named Mark Dennison, long-term pastor, really had to step down from his church because of a sexual addiction. He started a ministry that really helps guys. I personally was part of his group for at least 2 years and just had that accountability for pastors. Great tools there. But you know what? That's rehabilitation.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is preventing all that pain.
Yeah.
We're talking about preventative. You know, I heard probably 100 times, at least in my life, from my parents, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. You know what I mean? The preventive side. Let's prevent these kids from having the pain of all this
Yeah.
stuff. How many movie stars have we seen go through incredible addictions, divorces, suicide attempts? Why? Because they could do anything they want. They had the money, the
Gosh,
power,
from
the
young
influence.
ages,
and
too.
so you know what? Discipline, self-discipline actually gives us our life.
Yeah.
Not the freedom to do whatever.
Yeah.
We have the freedom to do whatever. God gives us that, but he gives us his word to say, listen, I want you to have the abundant life. How do you get that? By following my guidelines, my boundaries.
All
It's
things
not to
are
control you.
permissible, but not everything is.
Why do we
That's it.
why do we have Christmas Day once a year, right? I mean, hopefully we're honoring.
What the heck did
Come
that-
on, it's not
He
a
wants
joke.
more gifts.
Listen
All right.
now.
Okay. Walk us through it.
From a kid's perspective, Christmas Day every day would be wonderful,
Right.
But when we're answering that question to our 8-year-old or 9-year-old, we say, well, then it wouldn't be special
Right,
anymore.
right,
Now,
right.
would it?
That's right.
It's a day that we obviously are celebrating because of the birth of our Lord and Savior,
Yeah.
and we should be honoring to that 365 days a year. But we reserve one special day because it's a celebration, and to ensure its power.
Yeah.
We have to we put it onto that one day, but it's I don't know
points well
exactly
taken.
where I'm going.
No, I
but-
got the point. Basically, you're saying is that we can't just fill our lives with what we want and gifts and happiness.
No, because it'll be lost.
Exactly right.
It
It'll
takes
be
away the
lost.
goodness of what the thing
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It really does.
So going back to child rearing and child discipline is, I think one key thing that resonates this whole discussion for me is not pursuing your kids' happiness, but their readiness for life.
Also, not pursuing your kid's
That's
friendship.
good.
Their kids' friendship?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
As they
parents
get
were
older.
like, my kid, my
Right.
my kid and I are best
Yeah,
friends.
my 12-year-old
Like,
is my best friend. And
now,
I'm
I will
like,
tell you,
not saying you can't be friendly.
I would say that from about 13 to 17, 18, 19, I was largely not liked by my girls. I would say it was the percentage of them not liking me grew a lot. And I had to, it was really hard because I love them dearly. But I said to myself, I can't acquiesce, I can't surrender these values for them to like me.
Yeah.
I've got to make them ready for life. I've got to give them the truth. I've got to steer them. I got to direct them. I got to focus them. It's like they're They are an arrow in our bow. The Bible refers to children as quivers. Our arrows in our quiver, seriously. Literally to defend you and be part of your clan to make you stronger. But also we have to direct them and say, you know what? They're not going to like me for a while.
Yeah.
My wife showed up at a bar about 1 o'clock in the morning. Because one of our daughters listen to this. This is this thing about the 18-year-old. Give my wife props on this. They were probably, I'm not going to tell you which one, but one of them, they were probably 21, 22, living on their own. Oldest two daughters had their own place. She was concerned about the guy she was dating, this guy, seeing a little bit. Found out where she was. Showed up at the bar. Walked in the bar.
1 in the morning?
It's like 12:30.
Okay. 12:30.
In the bar.
12:30 is that's the time.
It is.
That's when your dad got you, and
Yeah,
that's when your
it's
wife
true.
got your girl.
My wife goes in the bar. Embarrasses the freak out of my daughter. Not by really saying anything, just being there.
Just being there.
Mom just hanging out. Hi. Daughter walks out, ticked off.
What are we drinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Daughter walks out, ticked off, man. They have this fight. Daughter leaves. Goal accomplished.
Wow.
She's out of the bar.
Daughter knows mom loves me, man. Mom's going to do whatever it takes. We're fighting for these kids. I don't care if you're 21, 22.
That's right.
You're my daughter. You're about ready to make stupid decisions here, and we're not going to sit on the sidelines and say, oh, she's 18. That is idiocy. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Their brain is not fully functional until mid-20s.
Yeah.
You better stay rock solid involved until you see them on the right course. And then you get in their head and you stay in the head. And then when you die, you're still in their head. You never get out of their head. And that's right.
Right? You're like some wizard behind the curtain.
That's exactly right.
You're always in.
And they will soar, man.
Yeah, no, it's true.
You want those kids to soar. My kids right now are soaring. All three of them are soaring. I give God the glory. It's his word. It's his spirit for generations in my family, my wife's family. That's what the Jews have done. They don't like say, oh, well, the Jews say, look, we're going to get up on my shoulders and the shoulders of them before and the shoulders of them before. For thousands of years, we're going to embrace the wisdom of our elders. We're not going to treat it like dumb and ridicule it and put it down and all that. No, we're gonna reverence it. We're gonna learn the traditions. They're gonna guide you. Yes, we're gonna be open to new things, but we're not gonna abandon ancient wisdom. And people who do that, why? Okay, first of all, let's have an intelligent discussion.
We've been told by our culture
Yeah.
that new is better and old is bad.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right.
That's why there's a new iPhone every year.
Right.
The iPhone 15 is terrible. The iPhone 16, that's
really
where
true.
it's at. And I'm like, they're basically the exact same thing.
Yeah. It's
So,
exactly
I
right.
still have a 13.
Yeah.
See?
I only have what I have because I had to.
I got a 16 because they had a deal. That was it.
Oh, you
Free.
Yeah, I got it for free. Did you get it for free?
Yeah.
I did too.
And my wife did the Eve thing. She's like, get the apple. I don't know. I'm good. No. Get the apple.
My wife got me. I was an Android guy for so long.
Oh, man.
And my wife, there was like this deal that was too good to be true,
Oh,
like
yeah.
4 years ago, whatever it was. And I'm
Yeah.
like, fine. I said, ultimately, honey, I really don't care as long as it does what I need it to
Right,
do.
right.
And
So sidebar, Apple or
sidebar.
Android? Which one's better?
Oh, Apple.
No, I got to hear from him.
No, it's Apple. He's wrong if he says.
No, honestly, I'm not like a highly like a techie guy.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not like a super device
Okay,
techie guy.
right.
So as far as I'm concerned, the phone that I have now, that's that's the best thing.
I would like
Okay.
to.
I really don't care.
It's an iPhone.
What I do hear from I think my wife, or that we were always really impressed with the photography or the picture taking of the Android. I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
That's true.
that it does certain things better.
Okay.
But in terms of like
Overall.
texting and accessing, certain apps,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I could really care
Yeah, it's
less.
good.
I really could.
Yeah.
Just always curious.
There are, by the way, great resources as well. There's like Bark, which you can put on your
Oh, yeah,
kid's
that's
phone.
a really good one.
And so I
Is
just
that BARQ?
BARK.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically a thing that you. They actually sell phones that are
Bark
like Bark
phones.
phones that you can give to your
What do they
kids.
do? What does it do?
It allows
It
you to
barks?
access everything in your kid's phone. Yeah, it does. It gives you like, here's what your kid did today on their
Oh,
phone.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
Yeah, it's
very-
going like a extra several steps beyond what
Yeah.
I was telling you my wife and I do with my son's phone. It's telling you exactly what the activity is
Wow,
on that
that's
phone.
extremely
and
helpful.
and it can set
Yeah.
up parameters.
Yeah, so you can get a phone, or you can get an app that you put onto their phone.
That's great.
And like so we got a deal with ours where Christian and I both got a free phone, but we also got, this is why the kids have a phone, is because
Yeah.
we got a free line.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we got a free line, we might as well take it. But
Yeah.
it's an Android phone.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to use it. And
Yeah.
so that's been like a challenge for
Right.
us. Not that
Yeah.
they can only access it when they're with us.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're getting into things that they shouldn't get
Yeah, it's
into.
good.
But as they get older, I'm like, we're gonna have to trade this in for an Apple, because I don't even know how to like.
Right.
They're-
Even get
and
around.
Ezra's so smart when it comes to technology,
Right.
where he's like,
He could do some workarounds you not know about it.
correct.
Because once you open up a door, you get real motivated to, to
Yeah.
feed that
100%.
euphoria.
To feed that dragon.
Seriously, and it's not, said a lot of things. I want to share a couple things. Why don't you ask me the question, what was the secret to your parenting? And then I'll answer that.
Okay. So what?
This is good.
This
Yes,
reminds
Jared.
me, as we were thinking, this came into my, just recently, actually, I was thinking about it. What was your secret to parenting with your
Jared,
3 girls that they are now following Jesus as adults?
You know what? Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're
I'll
welcome.
do my best to.
This is so interesting. I
mean, I kind of doubt that you
Develop.
have anything good to say.
Oh,
but
great.
I am excited to hear what we can make fun of.
I did write down some things. All right, so here's thoughts on why our kids are still in the faith. I wrote down number 1, if we immerse them in an environment where God, the Bible, and his family, the church, was prioritized with our words and our actions. They were immersed in that. The famous music teacher Suzuki in Japan, he totally revolutionized
Motorcycles,
music teaching.
music teacher.
I have a degree in music education. I have a lot of music experience. So when I was taking piano, which was very hard for me and I didn't like it, the Michael Aaron method, or the Michael Thompson? Anyhow, John Thompson. Anyhow, there's this Thompson, and
no wonder you weren't good at it.
I know I can't even remember the name. So you would get this book and you place your little thumbs on middle C, and some of you are. I'm traumatizing some people watching this. I'm
sure.
And you're looking at the notes, and it's very cerebral. Okay, that was one method, and that was the dominant method. Suzuki, he said, "No, man, that's not good." He said, "Parents, here's what I want you to do, Jared. I want you to get this recording." And I want you to play these recordings of these 5 or 6 songs. And I want you to play it during the day at your house all week long. And your kids are going to hear that. All right. And then I want you to have, let's say Ezra. Ezra's learning how to play piano.
Mm-hmm.
Ezra, why don't you sit down and try to play what you're hearing, this one song. It's a very simple melody.
Sure.
Now, Ezra is listening to it. He's reaching intellectually, psychologically, orally into, what is that? What is he playing? Let me try to do that. So it's coming from inside
Wow.
instead of outside trying to, you know what I mean? So totally different approach, developing the ear.
Wow.
And so Suzuki saw dramatic impact. And so that is the same principle of at home. Your kids catch it more than they are taught. And that's so true for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I would say the church we attend, I'm not going to mention the name. We've been there 3 or 4 years, I've noticed that the culture is bigger than their strategy. In fact, their strategy, I looked at the strategy and said, man, I had a written out strategy and mission strategy, the mission statement, the strategy, all the breakdown, had that laid out as good or better. They go to a church like, gigantic church. So culture trumps strategy. I felt like we immersed our kids in an environment where, for example, my Bible would be on the kitchen table a lot of times. They would see me. They were immersed in it. My wife is playing Christian, worship music at home. We're going to church. We're praying over the meals. We're praying for members of the church. We're getting off the phone. We're saying, you know what? Having a conversation with my wife, I shouldn't have said it that way. They're hearing that.
Yep.
I'm not teaching them.
Yep.
They're hearing me kind of repent openly, like that wasn't good. I didn't handle that right. They're immersed in that. They're hearing me on the phone apologize to somebody. Hey, man, I just want to reach out to you, man. I shouldn't have said it that way. They're being immersed in that. They're seeing that dad loves the Lord. He makes mistakes, but he's human, but he owns it. They're immersed in that. So I think that was one of the big things we did, because kids do more of what you do than what you say.
100%.
Well, definite. Second thing is we parented their heart, not their behavior. We talked about that a lot. Law versus grace. Very important. Number 3, we controlled their exposure to negative people, environments, and media. We turned things off. We didn't watch certain programs.
So my wife and we wrote a curriculum. It's called the Spirit-Led Family.
Love it.
And we talk about your home being a sanctuary, meaning it's set apart. Be holy because I'm holy. That's what you're talking about. There is.
Yes.
You are creating an environment that is different than the culture that they're in out there in order for them to be immersed in the things of God and not be distracted by the things of the world. But we as the parents have to establish that, or else the kids want everything to come in. Everything's new and exciting for them.
Exactly. And we have a very loosey-goosey. Oh, here's the one thing I want to say earlier that ties into this. The church growth movement has really hurt the church.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
Because now
it's hurt. Continue.
The criteria for success in the church is nickels and noses. So a lot of things are not being said at church that used to be said.
Yeah, because they want more people coming in and exiting. But sometimes some people are going to leave because they have to hear the truth.
But they've also created this codependency in order to raise children.
What's that mean?
What it means is parents are now dependent on the church to disciple their kids for them.
Not good.
Not good.
No, they're secondary.
They're secondary. They should be supplemental to the home.
Right, supplemental.
But because churches have done such a good job of making really good kids programs and really impressive youth groups, parents go, I can't compete with that, and I don't have to.
Right.
I don't need to teach this anymore. I can let the church do it for me.
No, it's not good.
And it's bad.
And the research.
It hurts. It hurts Big C Church, which should be happening at home.
That's exactly right. And the research shows that doesn't work.
It doesn't.
George Barna, who made his money as a statistician, shifted into focusing his marketing and research and statistics in the church world, and cranked out a major study on, and it's been used by the Royal Rangers, which is the Assemblies of God boys discipleship program. It's one of the biggest in the country. We had it at our church. Great program. Basically, the study basically says that teenagers that attended youth group for most of their teenage years faithfully, but whose parents weren't really serving the Lord, didn't really go to church, they didn't follow the Lord long term.
Yep.
The kids who
we see that as youth pastors, right?
Yeah.
I can go through tons of people that have gone through.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we shifted the church I was pastoring. I shifted and I said, we're not doing this. We're not going to dump all the money that we were doing in youth as far as staffing and resources. We're going to shift. We're going to put our money in the children's ministry more than ever, because the parents have to bring them, and we're going to increase that engagement with the parents. We're going to have monthly meetings where the parents come in. Here's what we're doing here. Here's what we want you to do at home. Are we in partnership? We really got very intentional about that partnership with the parent, because the parent is not doing it at home. It's not going to last.
The last youth pastor job I had, I felt my call was more to the parents than it was even to the students. And we had like 100 students.
That's wise.
And so we had, I had volunteers. I had an intern that I'm like, all right, I'm going to run youth group, and I'm going to run the programs and make sure that they're excellent.
Right.
But if you can empower those other people to do that, then to where now you have capacity to say, okay, how am I going to connect with these parents, and how am I going to equip them so that it's being enforced at home?
Yeah, and we sprung aboard on this conversation. We had talked about we controlled the exposure to negative people, environments, and media. If you're not saying from the pulpit and in your leadership, hey, there's certain music you should not be allowing your kids hear. Why? Because the lyrics are ungodly.
Yeah.
The movements, the way they dress is ungodly. Okay? That's, some people say, oh, you're being legalistic. No, and that is bull crap. And I get a little, because I'm so upset with the manipulation of jargon that justifies your irresponsible behavior as a church leader. No, no. It's not the win to have a bunch of people coming to a building. The win is discipling.
Yes.
Go and make disciples, not praying a prayer and getting baptized. That's part of it.
That's
That's
part
the
of my
beginning.
devotional this morning is the Great Commission.
The second phrase of the Great Commission is being neglected. Teaching them all things whatsoever I've commanded you is being neglected. And so when it comes to parenting, we've got to make sure that we're controlling their exposure to negative people, environments, and media. When I say negative people, I'm not just talking about, negative. I'm talking about bad people that don't have a worldview. Limit their exposure to them. They need to be exposed to bad people. Don't let them be thick with them. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that's, the Great Commission is as you go, right?
Right.
It's in your coming and your going as you're going through daily life. And I think what discipleship gets lost in our culture because we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
But if we're discipling our kids as we should be, like we are living life with them. So there's no excuse there to be like, oh, well, it's too hard because our lives are too, but no, if your life is too busy to be discipling your kid, then you need to be pulling stuff out so that you can, everything's important, not everything's a priority.
And now let's stop right there for a second. That right there is one of the, maybe one of the most important points today. If both parents are working and your kids' exposure and discipleship is coming from other people, then you probably need to downsize your life, especially those first 18 years. Seriously. I mean, is it really worth it? Is it worth it for you to have this lifestyle during this window of time? Let's say you live 85 years. These first 18 years of this kid's life, you can't compromise certain things to give them, to set them up for their 85 years or whatever. What a selfish pig you are.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And let's let that settle for just a moment.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously, you
I'm
can't
with you.
get a smaller house.
Yeah, we did.
See, that's good.
He's like, I don't even have a garage.
We don't. We don't. Look, listen, we went.
great.
Our house in Colorado was like 2,700 square feet.
Yeah.
For 6 people. It was
Yeah.
great. We had plenty of room.
Yeah.
We're now in a 1,450 square foot
A little
townhome.
tight.
It's really tight. And our oldest is like complaining that he doesn't have his own room. And I'm like, bro, like,
Get a job. No.
I'm like, I said, what do you want me to do? Like, build you a room on top of the attic or what? Like, you want to live in the attic? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
But it's good, and it was an adjustment for sure.
Yeah.
But like, we're in it together.
That's good.
Like there's nowhere to go, like.
And what
there.
we're talking about right now, boy,
In a good way.
Yeah, some people they're watching. Some people think, man, I can't do it. You can. It really boils down to what's important to you. And I'm not throwing any stones. It's just that for me right now, I'm living. Well, we went through a really difficult time. We don't have time for it, but I went through a crisis in my life. Stepped down from the church in 2021. Really tough time. Extremely the toughest time of my life. But the seeds that we sowed during the child-rearing years are coming back.
Yeah.
Our kids are healthy, strong, loving the Lord. We got now their kids are raising them right. And we have conversations. Critical. Now listen, oh boy, I should say that we have, one of my concerns is that people don't understand that discipleship is imitating the competence and the character of Christ. I don't want to be around dumb Christians that drink the Kool-Aid. I love them, but dog, I look them straight in the eye and said, bro, you gotta start thinking a little bit. In fact, everything that your pastor's saying, you better question every single thing and make sure it lines up with the Word of God. And then when you read the Word of God, make sure you get the context right.
That's
Make
what,
sure
Jesus,
you understand
that's what Jesus was so
exactly.
good at. He questioned a lot.
Question everything. And what's solid is going to stand. And I get real concerned about people don't think. I used to tell people, question everything I say. And if what I say holds water, begin to give a little bit of trust towards me. But ultimately, trust the Word of God, trust Jesus. We've got a competence and character of Christ. Let me finish my list here real quick.
Go ahead.
We love them when we spent quality time with them. That's basically what you just shared that you're doing.
Yeah, experiences over stuff.
There you go. So we love them. We spent quality time with them. We ate the evening meal together.
Yep, we do. Yep.
I'm going to tell you something right now. That one thing, turn the TV off, put the phones down, sit around a table, eat your food together. Don't try to force anything. Over a period of time, conversation will start to happen naturally.
We play Happy Crappy Cow.
What's that?
Everyone gets to say one happy thing. Like we go around the table. Hey, what's one thing that made you happy today?
Okay, and then you get
From
to
that
do
day.
one
crappy thing.
And then what's the last one?
It's just something random. It's hilarious.
You said
the kids
you said
come,
happy
crappy cow.
So the cow is a random thing?
Cow is random.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cow is
That's
random.
fun.
Yeah.
You got some good stuff, man.
Yeah. So, but what's great, what Christiona's been having us do is, when it's not just like, because everyone's like thinking about their own thing.
Yeah.
So now what we're doing is, you say you're happy. Now we like give you like we like celebrate with you, and we're like that's all like giving you positive, affirming them.
Yeah.
When they give their crappy, we give them empathy.
That's great.
And it's saying, oh man, that sucks. I'm sorry that happened to you.
That's great.
How can I help you?
That's great.
And then cow, we just really enjoy laughing at whatever stupid thing people.
Yeah, it's
come
gonna
up
be
with.
cool. I hope I'm alive to see what your kids do, because that's
Me
Well,
too.
geez, man. I mean, don't be so somber. Like,
I'm just saying, I'll be 60 in a couple weeks.
You should be around for a few more decades. Your dad, by the way, 95.
Yeah.
Your dad.
Very thankful.
So
What
I mean,
a
that's,
beast.
That's
I
like
know,
40
thankful.
years. That's like a whole lifetime.
Thank
Dude,
you.
I'm saying.
Thank
I'm
you.
saying.
You're just getting rolling, bro.
I like that. I like that. All right, so to finish my list here, we celebrated key transitions in their lives. Like we had our weird homeschool friends that they're weird as heck, but I love them, and we need them to be weird. We are peculiar people.
Yeah.
And if we're
Intentionally
not,
weird.
If we are not peculiar enough, then we're not enough like Christ. If you don't teach your kids that you're different, you're going to be different. We're not going to be like the rest of the crowd. We're going to
Set
swim
apart.
upstream. We are set apart. If you don't instill that over and over and over and over and over, they're going to get sucked in to the downstream, and it's downstream. We are upstream swimmers. We're like the salmon. We are going against the grain. We are weird. You know what? I don't care what so-and-so does. They may be dumb. We're not dumb. They do dumb stuff. That family, I got so-and-so do that. Well, so-and-so wants us to stay over. Well, let's talk about that. Let's see. Well, no. We can't tell you all the reasons why, because privately we found out blah, 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 blah. No, you can't stay over there. It crushes, and you have to say no. No, because you found out that weird boyfriend of the mother who's divorced has this new boyfriend. You know how many times kids are molested by the boyfriend?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, heck no. I'll be rearranging teeth.
Or the older brother or the cousin.
Exactly. Yeah. So you tell your kid most of the time no on sleepovers. Most of the time.
Ours is a hard no.
Yeah, exactly right. So, well, I didn't even say what I was going to say, but it was good. We celebrated key transitions. Our homeschool friends shared this idea of the blessing when you get to be 13 years old.
That's what I just did this last weekend.
Dude, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
So what we did is we pulled in voices that we respected, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, close friends, godly people, to speak a blessing. I can almost cry about it now, bro. It was so powerful. They would read the stuff off, lay hands on them, pray for them, and they're sitting in a chair. These kids get this deposit of anointing, affirmation. You're special. People telling them what they see in them.
Yep.
It's incredible, man.
Yeah, so I did a man trip with my men's group I brought Ezra to. So we went camping.
Love that.
And I picked I thought I was picking a good campsite. It ended up being like a 3-mile hike through sugar sand.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's not fun.
Ooh.
That's rough.
So
Sugar
listen,
sand's
That's
rough,
rough.
bro.
and we're
rough.
all pulling these carts. So it's like walking on the beach, pulling a cart for 3 miles, right?
That's rough, dude.
I guess just surviving that is
Yeah,
You're
that's one.
maybe
exhausted.
enough.
We're going to
Here's
stay
what's cool.
longer. We're not going back.
Here was what was awesome about it, though. Okay, is going out. One guy had to come later, and so we left a cart for him. And so there was 4 of us and Ezra. So it was 2 guys to a cart, and Ezra was just. He was like the little kid going out there, right?
Yeah.
And he's like running ahead, and he's like, "Hey guys, there's more sand coming up, and it's uphill." And we're like, "Thanks, bro, super helpful." At one point, we stopped to rest, and he's sitting there, and he's like, "Whenever you guys are ready to go, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to go. You guys ready to go yet?" And it was like he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
We get there, we did that. I had everyone speak into his life, talk about, hey, here's the things that we see in you. Here's what it means to be a godly man. We surrounded him. We prayed over him. He got to chop wood. He got to shoot a bow and arrow. I made him set up the tent. All of these
Manly,
things.
dangerous
all of these,
stuff.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I gave
He
him.
wrestled a crocodile.
He did. It was awesome.
Shot a gun.
The gift that I gave him.
We ate bear that night.
I gave him a
Caught a
pocket knife.
rattlesnake.
I gave him a
Sorry.
pocket knife with his name on it.
That's good.
As like
That's
because
good.
I have one with my name on it, so it was like,
cool.
hey, this is what Dad has. Now you have your own.
love that.
But then on the way back, 2 of the guys had to leave early, so now we had 2 carts with only 3 guys.
Ooh.
So Ezra had to be a part of it.
Come on.
So he's walking next to me. We're pulling this cart and it sucks, right? It's hot. We're sweating.
It's heavy.
He starts doing the little kid thing where he's
Whiner.
like, oh, this is hard. Da, da. I said, stop. I said, who else is here? Nobody. I said, it's you and me. I can't do this by myself. So you're going to dig deep and you're going to man up and you're going to do this with me. That's right. And he's like, listen,
I wish I had a son.
That was
Ezra's-
great.
You
Ezra's
could do that with girls
attitude-
too.
Oh, yeah,
because
I
girls
did.
are tough too.
I did.
I bet you did.
his attitude,
You made them pull the cards by themselves.
Not that.
his attitude completely flipped.
I love
Yeah.
that.
He dug deep. And we kept switching because he's not as strong as everybody else.
Right.
And
That's
so
cool, that's cool.
he got to be Jacob Lacey was there, his youth
that's
pastor, as well as Stephen, his zone leader.
Wow.
And so and then Dylan was there, who's his production
I love that guy.
guru, right?
That's awesome.
And we had one other guy, but these guys, they're all guys who are influential in his life. And it was like going out, he was the boy. Coming back, he was part of the group.
Dude.
And
That's
so
powerful, man.
it was like I couldn't have asked. Like
So you're underscoring what we did.
I'm underscoring that the
Yeah.
blessing,
Yeah.
and having some sort of
Right.
thing. Like I
Demarcating that age.
at 13.
Yes.
Like Jews have
12.
12 bar mitzvah
Bar mitzvahs and
bat
bat mitzvahs for
Yes.
girls now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I wanted him to have. I wanted all of our kids
love
to
it.
have that experience. There's a good book called The Blessing, by John Trent.
I think I have it. I never read
his
it. I
last
just
name.
talked
The
to
other
the
guy's
people who read
Smalley.
it.
I think if it's Jacob Smalley, maybe. Anyway, read that book.
Yeah.
It's all based on Jacob and Esau and receiving the blessing, and they have 5 elements of the blessing.
love it.
And so I tried to incorporate all 5 of those into what we did over the weekend. And now, of course, our younger son Enoch's like, I gotta wait 3 years,
See?
you know. And I introduced him back to the family as a man. And so like Enoch's like, wow, it's really weird having a brother that's a man, you know. You know,
It's great,
And-
though.
And Ezra recognizes like I'm not fully grown yet. I'm now a young man.
I love
I
that.
still have growth to do.
I love that.
So anyway, sorry, I'm just
no, sorry.
piggybacking
no,
on-
you put
on
a,
that.
No, it's perfect. Celebrated key transitions in their lives, like 13 years old in a blessing ceremony.
Yeah.
You're just basically reiterating what I did. It's so, and that just we've already talked about this, but parenting doesn't stop at 18.
Yep.
Focused on training them right, directing them, focusing them, not on making them happy. You know, focus less on today's happiness and more on tomorrow's readiness. Same thing, just worded
Yep.
differently. Train them to be faithful to God in a godless world. We are a peculiar people. We go against the grain, swim against the current. Pretty much already said that.
I like that word peculiar.
Yeah, it's true.
That's good. That's better than weird.
Yeah. And I just shared the story about my mom praying for me every day. Those are just some things that we did, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a bunch. And my wife, here's the joke in our household. This is no joke. I would say, let me say it the nice way, then I'll tell you the funny way. Study and listen to Christian elders who know a lot more about it. My wife quoted James Dobson so much that my kids would mock her privately behind her back.
Yeah.
To me, and I was bad because I laughed because I enjoyed it too. So I get sick of it too.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, Dr. Dobson says. And I'd be like, I know. It was our private joke. It was kind of bad.
Yep.
And I laughed. I did laugh. But what's great about it, my wife was extremely resourced, reading tons of stuff, reading books to a fault. And we had fights about that. Where I'd be saying, I get it, but here's why we're not doing that. And we had some real, you know, and this is where, and let me just go ahead. Let me go to a very sensitive topic, okay? The hierarchy and the order of the home is not talked about anymore because it doesn't play well with the current society.
No.
So something really cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
Doesn't,
It's powerful.
yeah.
You're 100% right.
I'm about ready to say it. We
It
could
is.
close this podcast on a high note.
Listen. Christ is the head.
Right.
Yes.
The father is the leader. The mother, here's what's beautiful. So do you know that the mother is actually described, Eve is described as the Ezer, or the helper.
I just heard this, yes. No, that's not new to me. Yeah, no, yeah.
But what's cool about it is
yeah.
God also describes himself as an Ezer to Israel.
I love that.
It's not saying that you're lesser than.
No.
It's saying the Ezer means to help where they cannot help themselves.
Perfect. Now that right there, see, the thing is, okay, we're not saying what everybody is trying to say. Ephesians 5:22, little joke I'll tell you later. Ephesians 5:22, Colossians 3:18, and 1 Peter 3:1. All three of those scriptures talk about the hierarchy of the home.
Yep.
We don't even like the word hierarchy anymore.
Right.
And we refuse to talk about the husband having more responsibility, because that's really what it is. God is not going to frustrate his employee or his steward with more responsibility and not the same amount of, he's going to give, if you give an employee a task and you give them the authority to do the task, they're quitting. They're very frustrated out of their mind.
Yep.
You've asked an employee to manage something, give them the authority to make a decision, he's frustrated or she's frustrated out of their mind. So we can focus on the authority that God has given man, and that can come across as negative.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the fact, wait a second.
Well, it feels controlling.
Exactly. So I think it is important that we teach this in a way
And
that's
if you're not
godly and loving.
surrendered
Right.
as a father, you take that authority and you abuse it.
Absolutely. So what's happened is that we've thrown away mostly the concept of hierarchy because it doesn't play well and it's not taught well.
Yeah.
But that's not good either.
No.
We're at one extreme where wives be submissive to your husbands, and then men that weren't loving their wives as much as Christ loved the church abused it. There was a beatdown thing going on. And now we got the other extreme. Oh, we don't even talk about it because hierarchy's bad. If we do that, we're not going to have the nickels and noses in the church. And that's nuts too. And that really ticks me off.
Yep.
Because there is hierarchy.
Yep.
And doggone it, there's a time where a father pulls his wife off to the side and says, listen, honey, I know we're not in agreement on this. I get it. And I love you and I've heard what you had to say. But I'm asking you to defer. Let's use that word. To defer to my decision on this. And if it doesn't go well, I'm going to own it.
Yeah.
But someone's got to make a decision. Right now, these kids see a disunity and they're going to run through the gaps. We got to be solidarity. We've got to be unified, and I want to make the call. Now, that's the biblical model.
Can I say what's beautiful on the other end?
Yeah.
Is I feel them really loved and respected when my wife comes to me and says, hey, I don't agree with you on this, but I'm going to defer to you because you are the leader of our home.
Dear Jesus. She's a good woman. Don't ever trade her, bro. You cannot improve on
it. Doesn't
that.
happen all the time, but no. She God has done so much in her life.
Has that ever been said by another woman? Is there any historical record of that?
I'm sure that it has.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
so
probably
Sure,
yours.
she said that.
She did. She says,
you record it?
She says she said it multiple
I'm
times.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's a little cynical.
She says
I'm sorry.
But the other piece of that too is that the children are in that hierarchy as well.
That's
and
right.
they are the disciples.
That's right.
They're the ones that you are pouring into. That's the leadership that we're talking about is not I am in control of everything and everyone does what I say. It's for the purpose of investing in your spouse and in your children.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of it.
It's really
But
It
we
has
see
a
it in
reason.
nature, though, too. There always needs to be an established leader. There has to be order. There has to be a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And if you have a group of lions, there's a leader there. If you have a group of anything, wolves, right? The alpha is usually actually the female.
Yep.
Quite often in that, but there's a pack.
Right.
But there's one alpha. There's one top dog.
Exactly
Where did that statement even come from? That
exactly
phrase even come from? Top dog.
It's God's design.
It is God's design.
Strong by
design. That's it.
Did you know too that one of the punishments for woman is that they will always desire to be in control of the
Genesis 3:15 through 17.
man.
Yep.
Yep. And so that's why there's this battle that we see is because of the fall, the sinful fall.
And look at the political
And it's pride.
situation. Yeah, it is. The political situation, we're attacking the patriarchy.
Yes.
The patriarchy should be a holy, respected, honored, revered thing. And yes, I said it. That is where the strength of a people group comes from.
Yeah, that's right.
We can rattle off Moses, Adam, Moses, Noah, all the prophets, Elijah. This is our patriarchy. Abraham, the patriarch, patriarch.
He did some really stupid things.
Of course he did.
Hey, honey, I know that you're beautiful. Pretend like you're my sister. That way they don't kill me.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
And then his son does the same thing.
Yeah. And she's not having babies. I guess Sarah came up with that too. Is like
She did.
That was Sarah's idea.
Oh my
Yeah. Hey,
gosh.
why don't you just take my handmaid and
That's
bang
right.
her out? And we'll just call it, ours.
We'll call it good.
Yeah.
I love when you guys bring the Bible to like modern day lingo. You know what I mean?
My point
true.
is, we have this patriarchy.
Yes.
It doesn't mean they were perfect, but it doesn't mean that there isn't things that we learn from them.
No, when I think
In
of
God's
when I
design.
think of that in design and the way it's intended to be, and I think of my mother's parents. I think of my grandfather and my grandmother, and he was just the most godly man. Everybody loved him in his community, in his church, in his home. Yeah. Grandpa was like, he could, as far as I'm concerned, like he was like the most perfect man in my life, in my young life. Sure. But what made him so great was his wife, my grandma. Wow. And he wouldn't have been the man that he was without his sidekick.
No question.
Right? So, I mean, was he the leader of the home? Absolutely. But he couldn't lead as well and flourish as well as he did if it wasn't for his spouse.
This helper piece has been huge for Christiana, because she's like, why do I have to ask you to do the same thing over and over? You know what I mean? Because, or not even that, like, sometimes I lack common sense. Like, it's not.
And he can't spell.
It's not my strength, all right? Common sense is not my strength. And so she'll come along and she'll say, how do you not think about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't get to choose the thoughts that come in my head. They're either there or they're not there. And for a long time, that frustrated her. But now she goes, I'm here to help him where he falls short.
That's so good.
And so for her to be like, I'm going to joyfully step into that role, because that's my God-given role to help fill that gap.
I love that.
And this happened, she literally, I accidentally took Tupperware home that belonged to somebody else. And she's like, oh, don't forget to take that back. I said, no problem. I'll take it back tomorrow. She puts my wallet inside the Tupperware so that I don't forget it.
Right.
I go to work. I grab my wallet out of the Tupperware.
No, you did not.
I take off.
No, you did not.
This was yesterday. She sent me a picture and said, hey, babe, you forgot something. And she's like, I'm not mad. I'm just trying to be your helper.
Dude, that's great.
Did you seriously? You knew that the wallet was in something you needed to bring back, but did you do
He
it out of
smoked a lot of
spite?
crack when he was like two.
I didn't know it was in there. I knew that I was supposed to bring the Tupperware. These were like two things that I just didn't put together in my brain. Oh my and I just went to grab my wallet. I didn't even think about it being in the Tupperware. Like, it wasn't closed. It was open. I just grabbed it out.
Let me capture the big point.
I brought it back today.
The big
It took
point
me an
is
extra
what
day.
I really appreciate about your wife, and I think is a message here, is that women need to understand that guys want your help,
Yes.
but we don't want your disrespect.
Yeah.
So if you helping us disrespectfully, we miss the message because we're so distracted by the respect, because that's one of our biggest issues.
Yeah, the love and respect circle.
So big.
Is 100%.
So if a woman could come to a man and bring the help respectfully, a guy not only needs it, he wants it, he will love you more for it.
Oh, yeah.
If you bring it in criticism and disrespect and condescension, it's going to hurt so much. And conversely, guys can hurt women.
Now I'm not going to be
I was going to say
loving.
that that thing gets passed on to the children as well.
Exactly right.
100%,
And they say, well, mom and dad, they say they love Jesus, but clearly, if this is what it means to love Jesus, I don't want that.
Man, so much, so true, so true.
So, yeah, it's been cool. I mean, you guys know Christiana.
Oh, yeah.
She is.
Never heard of her.
She will tell you what she's thinking. She is headstrong.
That's great.
And she, so it's been a thing of God at work in her to get to the space where she is now today, where she, I mean, you look at us 16 years ago, and I've had to learn, because I'm naturally passive, to step into that leadership role. And so it's kind of like we came into marriage like this, and through the grace of God, we've been able to flip and actually be complementary in a healthy way.
That's good. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I think that there is. We're just gonna have to. You're gonna have to come back
We're
again,
just
because
gonna have to do
we're
part
gonna have to
3.
do a three-peat,
I
because
know.
all right.
We went deep. We went
did,
deep today.
and I'm grateful, because this is like the stuff I'm really passionate about,
Yeah.
like getting back to God's original design for family and recognizing that if we want to see transformation in our country, if we want to see true revival in our country, it's in the home. It's not at, not that we don't want to have great political people, not that we're not going to be smart about how we vote and that we want the right people to make policies.
Right.
The law and the policies don't matter if we're doing the right thing at home.
And guess what? When you do the right thing at home, we will reflect and vote for a good government.
Correct.
If we don't get this
That's
right,
the root.
everything else crumbles.
It falls apart.
It all starts with the home.
It does.
It
And
totally
that's been
does.
the attack,
and that's
right?
The
That's the
and that's the
attack in our
attack and the erosion we've seen.
Totally.
And let's hope that there is a resurgence and a major rebound. And I feel like there is a shift.
There is.
happening.
It is.
And that, that marriage and husband and wife and the family unit and the community and
The
the
sanctity
neighborhoods.
of life.
Yeah. That these
All of
things, go back to being the goal.
Yeah, the truth and the
the
foundation
standard,
stones
the gold
of our
standard.
the foundation
what
stones
matters
of our
the most.
society.
That's right.
Exactly. Right.
I don't want to.
At least in Florida, that could be our faith foundation.
Right. At least in Florida. Right. But when we're all, when we're all older and we're all, into our 80s and 90s, hopefully, God willing.
Yes.
That was nice. He was going to say 60s and 70s.
I was. If we can get to be as old as 60 one day and
Coming
look
soon.
this good.
It is.
No, but what's going to matter to us at that point?
Yeah.
The only thing that we're probably considering or thinking about or wanting are the people in our lives. And that's our spouse, that's our children, those are our siblings, those are our closest friends, and that's what we're trying to hold on to.
Yeah.
And if we and it starts in the home. It starts from, like you said, from when they're little until they're 25 years old.
True. And let me say one last thing. I think this is really important. Back when you used to have copy machines before they became really advanced, every generation copy was a little bit less than the first one.
Yeah.
So even if you gotta get to a place when you're parenting, you gotta make a decision and be clear, knowing that you're flawed, knowing that you have limited perspective, but be clear. Those kids need clarity. You can't go in there wishy-washy and half. You're guessing, you're not sure. Now listen, you have to pray about it, confer with your wife, your spouse, whatever, and then you make a decision and you roll with it. And then you adjust along the way. But man, you better be clear. I used to preach that if there's a mist in the pulpit, there's a fog in the pew.
Yeah,
you could translate that. If there's a mist in the parents, there's a fog with the kids. So you better be clear. It's, you got to lay it down clear, whatever the plan is. Well, this lieutenant colonel that used to attend the church made this statement. I think it applies to parenting. Even a poor plan, well executed, will be successful.
Sure.
Even a poor plan, well executed. You're out there, do the best you can, execute well, and constantly adjust, and go to bed at night you're doing all you can.
It's like in a football game when they're executing well. It's like they know exactly what the other team's going to do, and they can't stop it.
Right.
It doesn't matter that they know the plan.
Exactly right. It's going to be a run play.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a run play, and we're going to block you.
Yes.
And you're not going to be able to
We're going to run
tackle the
over
guy.
you.
We're
Like
gonna run over
Jalen
you
Hurts
'cause-
and that 2-yard
It's
thing they do, and they just
100%.
grind over
Yeah.
top.
The tush
of you.
push.
They had the
It
one guy
works.
that was like, he like laid himself out in the Super Bowl where he was like on the ground, like trying to stop it, and it still just got bowled over.
I'll tell you what, man. I am a diehard New York Giants fan. Have been since I was
You probably hate
10
the
years
Eagles.
old. Hate the Eagles,
Of course.
but first time in my life, I was rooting for the Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
to
Tired
win
of
that game.
tired of seeing.
Yeah, it's just tired. I'm tired
they
of it.
dominated?
Tired
They
of
did.
it. Oh, it wasn't even a.
I was
that
shocked.
game was over at halftime.
I was shocked.
I mean,
Yeah.
that game was over at halftime.
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
So
No one saw it
I
coming.
didn't see it coming.
Everyone
I
picked
saw
the
it coming.
Chiefs. I was hoping it would happen.
Yeah.
But of course, there's always a part of you that's like, damn, these freaking Mahomes
had no idea.
Chiefs.
The defensive line of the Eagles literally just
took them out.
took 'em out.
It's
Yeah.
like my Giants
Yeah.
did to Tom
That's
Brady
how
twice.
Yeah, it's true.
That's how the Broncos won their last Super Bowl
It's
too.
exactly right.
against
No,
Cam
defense win. Hey, offense will win you games, but defense wins championships.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
we just
In
saw
our
it again
parenting
last night.
podcast
Yeah,
on
that's
Sunday.
right.
That's it, babe. That's it, babe.
My last
Defend
point,
those kids.
That's right.
The last thing I want to say before we close is just the power of prayer. You talked about it. Like, I know my grandparents are praying for me every single day.
Yeah.
I know that my parents are praying for my family every single day. So even as you age up and your kids have kids, like you have an important role to play, even if you're not in direct contact with them
good.
all the time.
So
So
true.
please don't let that down. Also, you're going to make mistakes, so give yourself grace, and you got to trust that Jesus is going to fill up the gaps.
I love that.
That's what he does.
It's so good.
That's how he rolls.
So good.
Some modern language for you.
good.
So, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. Man, this was good. Anthony, thank you so much for being
Glad to
here.
be here.
You're the man, dude.
We
We'll do this
will-
again because
Do
there's
it.
more
Yeah.
to talk about.
Do
We
it.
just couldn't
Do
get
it.
to it.
We'll try to
Love it.
not
Love it.
wait a whole year to get you back in, but
It's on you.
Hey, make sure listen, if this is something that was valuable to you, if this was a conversation that you think someone else needs to hear, please share it because we want to get the message out there because honestly, this is more than a podcast. This is the reality of what it means to be the church and the reality of what it means for us to be what Jesus has called us to be as parents. So please share that out there and catch us on the next one.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.